All right, we'll go ahead and get started then. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Pfeiffer. I am the editor of LibTech Insights and an editor at Choice. I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Clearer Dialogues with AI, Unpacking Prompt Engineering for Librarians. Today's session is a part of LibTech Insights, or LTI, a library tech content vertical from Choice, and I'll talk about that more in just a minute. But before we get started, I do want to point out a few features of the webinar software. All the attendees who join the presentation are automatically muted and your cameras are off, so you don't have to worry about generating noise or feedback. We've gotten that taken care of for you. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. To adjust the size of the slides or a video, you can use the divider in the middle of the screen to slide the sizes to your liking. We will be using the Q&A feature today instead of the chat. So if you have any questions, please just put them there. They're generally at the bottom of the screen. We won't be able to get through all the questions, but we will try to do as many as we can. You can use the upvote feature to highlight any questions that you would like to see answered, and we'll do our best to get to them. Also, there is a closed captioning available for today's session. To toggle the automated captions on or off, please use the CC button at the bottom right corner of your screen. And lastly, please note that we are recording today's program, and everyone who registered should receive a follow-up email with a link to the archived version, as well as a link to the slides. Okay, so before we jump into the presentation itself, I do want to tell you a little bit about LTI. LibTech Insights is a content vertical from Choice that examines the day-to-day impact of library and education technology on academic librarians, faculty, researchers, administrators, and students. The channel provides practical guidance on technology trends and products as they relate to user experience, accessibility, discovery, operations, content management, and much, much more. You can find out more about LTI and read the blog post in the links at the chat. I do highly recommend subscribing to our newsletter. You'll get a weekly email summarizing what's new on the blog, as well as some bonus content. So, it's worth your while. And one final thing, we are always looking for great content for the blog. So if you're interested in contributing a piece to LTI, be it a review, a case study, a tutorial, we're pretty open to many different formats. Feel free to email me just a brief summary of your idea. I'm happy to chat it out with you. All right. Without further ado, let's get started with today's session. I'll turn it over to Dr. Lowe to introduce himself.
Thank you, Daniel. And first of all, thank you to ALA Choice and LibTech Insights for inviting me to speak on the topic that I'm really passionate about. Hello, and great to see so many of you here. My name is Leo Lowe, and I'm the Dean of the College of University Libraries and Learning Sciences at the University of New Mexico. So here I oversee about 120 staff and faculty. And University of New Mexico is the flagship university in New Mexico and the only Research One university in the state. And we enroll just over 20,000 students. Now, in addition to being a dean, I'm also leading the university's AI literacy initiative. We're calling it the AI Empowerment Initiative to empower students, faculty, and staff to use AI intelligently and responsibly. So, and I'm also currently the Vice President-elect of ACRL. So I'm hoping to use this platform to support academic library workers to learn more about AI and to hopefully upskill. So enough about me. So for today's webinar, this is the outline. So a little bit about AI or generative AI basics, a little bit about AI literacy, but mostly about prompt engineering and the clear framework for prompt engineering. And then, implications for the future of learning and education and librarianship. Also, I want to leave plenty of time for Q&A and comments. Now, to get things started, I'm curious. I want to ask you this, you see the poll appearing. Have you tried ChatGPT? Just pick, yes or no. So ChatGPT came on the scene I think last November, end of last November. So it's been almost a year, 10 months or so, and it's kind of, changed so much. And I have been using it daily, so I'm curious to see, whether, you have tried it or not. Okay, about almost 80% of you have tried it. 21% have not. Great to know. But whether you have used it or not, you must have seen some of these headlines. If you look on the left, right, ChatGPT passing exams, and all kinds of medical, exam, business school, law schools. So it's pretty amazing. It's powerful. But if you look on the right, you see some of the issues it's raised as well. A lot of lawsuits going on. There's some high-profile one, like the Sarah Silverman one, and a lot of writers suing ChatGPT or OpenAI using their content without their permission. And at the bottom, that's kind of more interesting to me, actually, too, for like a librarian, because Bing and other search engines are really using these kind of generative AI technology now, which means that it's changing. It will change how we search for information. And that's the business of librarians, right? On information discovery. So a little bit about generative AI. These AI models work by processing a vast amounts of data, learning patterns within them, and then generating unique content based on these patterns. And the application of this technology is surprisingly broad. I mean, we see it in art, where AI generates fascinating and abstract pieces. In music, you can compose tunes that range from classical symphonies to pop music. Even in gaming, where AI is used to create immersive, interactive environments. So to try it out, I asked Midjourney to create several images for me. I see in the Q&A, somebody said they have used Midjourney. So if you look at the panda one, I asked it to create an image of a baby panda in an infinity pool on the roof of a skyscraper. And that's what it came up with. And then I asked it to design a poster of a library in the style of the 70s graphic designer Saul Bass. That's the one on the top left. How about the concept of AI and library, top right? And then finally, I asked it to make me into a character in the Pixar movie, and that's what it came up with. And this is just the beginning. The potential uses of this technology stretch into scientific theories, where AI could generate hypotheses based on existing data, personalizing entertainment, where content is tailored to individual taste, and even virtual worlds where entire realities are shaped by the creative output of these AI models. Now, as librarians and educators, we're always adapting to new advancements and finding ways to improve our users' or students' experiences. And AI models can certainly provide exciting new opportunities. So what does it mean for libraries? And these are just some, initial thoughts. I mentioned that generative AI will change information discovery. It's already changing it. GPT-4 power Bing, Google, what does it mean for information literacy? Publishers are using and protecting their content much more now because they know how valuable it is for training purposes. What will it mean for open access? Personalized services for users, for example, or enhanced workflow for library workers? What are the future roles for librarians? So there are quite a few reports out there that talked about how AI is going to transform work. There's this McKinsey report, looking ahead to the next 3 years, respondents predict that the adoption of AI will reshape many roles in the workforce. And generally, they expect more employees to be reskilled than to be separated. And then the Department of Education had published a report called AI in the Future of Teaching and Learning. So it underscores the importance of AI literacy for all educators, including librarians. AI literacy is a multifaceted concept that involves a comprehensive understanding of AI, its applications in education, its ethical implications, and the ability to engage in transparent and authentic dialogue about AI. Now, you may have heard this popular saying, people are not going to be replaced by AI, but people who do not use AI will be replaced by people who use AI. So here's a brand new study just got published, conducted by several researchers with the Boston Consulting Group. And they found that consultants who use AI were more productive and produced higher quality results than those who didn't use AI. Now, in order to use AI intelligently and responsibly, people need to have some basic knowledge of it. And let's just call this skill set AI literacy. So I conducted a extensive survey to understand the current state of AI literacy among library employees, most academic library employees. I did it in May this year. So the study examined, library employees, how familiar they are with AI concepts, hands-on experience of AI tools, and perceptions regarding the potential of AI in library services. And the survey also sought to understand their concerns about ethical and privacy issues related to AI, their interest in AI training, and the readiness of their libraries to adopt AI. So this information helps us identify areas of strength and opportunities for improvement, and ultimately, hopefully, informing the creation of a comprehensive framework for AI literacy in librarianship. So 760 respondents participated. So one of the key findings is there's just a moderate AI literacy level. About 45% rated their understanding as moderate, but only not even 4% as very high. And their understanding of AI concepts and principles is only 2.97 out of 5. The midpoint is 3, so it's below midpoint. And we found significant associations between whether respondents have paid for a premium version of one of those AI tools. Let's say GPT-4 is the paid version of ChatGPT. Those people who have paid for these tools have a slightly higher understanding of AI concept or AI literacy. But there's some mixed perceptions of AI. They recognize their potential benefits, but are also significant concerns about ethical issues and potential for misuse. If you look at the pie chart on the right, the red and the purple show the percentage of people who didn't feel adequately prepared to use AI in their work. And a lot of people, many felt that there's definitely a need for training at this point. So I'm going fast with these because I want to focus on prompt engineering. And of course, when we talk about AI tools, we have to bring up ethical concerns. If you look at the pie chart on the right, the yellow and green parts are the percentage of people who felt that it's very urgent for the libraries to address potential ethical and privacy concerns related to the use of generative AI. So you can kind of see, there is this tension where, there is such a potential for AI, but at the same time, so many flaws or issues at this point. So now that we have a sense of the current landscape, I'll get into the main topic today. And to get things started, another question for you. How familiar are you with the concept of prompt engineering? And please rate it from 1 to 5. 1 being not familiar at all, and 5 being extremely familiar. I'll give it a few seconds before I go to the next slide. When we talk about AI and new occupations of bringing new jobs, prompt engineering, that's something that didn't exist just a few months ago. Oh, this is interesting. So pretty evenly spread out, 20-ish% for 1 to 4, and only 6% of you rated yourself being extremely familiar. So yeah, so this is a new thing. And let me go to the next slide. So I genuinely believe the world has changed since last November when ChatGPT was first available to the public, because all of a sudden, coding or the ability to code is no longer a barrier, where the power of AI is accessible to pretty much everyone, not just the tech elite. And models like ChatGPT are enabling anyone to use natural language to guide computers. And generative AI is breaking down barriers, I think, democratizing capabilities in really unprecedented ways. Therefore, it's a new era where nuanced communication with machines is possible through a new skill set called prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is a bridge between human thought and computational power, a bridge that has profound implications for many, including us, librarians. Prompt engineering allows us to fine-tune our questions or our instructions or prompts to engage the AI from the simple to the sophisticated. So the potential here is enormous, limited only by our creativity and understanding of the technology. Now, why is it relevant to librarians? Because prompt engineering is about asking the right questions or giving precise instruction to generate the most useful information. And information is our business. Now, look at this job ad from Anthropic, a leading AI company. Its own large language model, Claude 2, is just as good, or some say even better than GPT-4. And they're hiring prompt engineers / librarians. It's a brand new job category that didn't exist until this year. So our skills in organizing and retrieving information aren't just recognized, they're highly sought after. You need proof. Notice the salary range, 250,000 to 370,000 US dollars. Our abilities are not only financially valuable, but also have the potential to transform the AI and information discovery landscape. So we as librarians are in a great position to lead the way, but only if we are proactive about it. So generative AI has really changed and will continue to change how we discover information. Both Bing and Google's are leveraging generative AI, changing the very essence of search engines. So the pros, more intuitive, personalized search experiences. The cons, the technology is not perfect. It still has a lot of flaws. It's still evolving rapidly, which also means that we need to be adaptive to all the constant changes. So at the core of this transformation is prompt engineering. It's a practical application of our librarian skills. Think of it as evolving from managing static databases to dynamically interacting with AI that can generate information to suit individual needs. So our role, in a way, is shifting from information curation, where we organize and manage existing knowledge, to a proactive information strategy that guides and shapes the generation and delivery of information. Once again, what does it mean for us as librarians? So I see prompt engineering skills as more than just a new tool in our toolkit. It positions us as active participants in the technology landscape, guiding AI to deliver personalized information. It could be a fundamental change in our profession's direction. But now that I've established that prompt engineering is quite important, I want to introduce you to a framework that I've developed. So many new users of ChatGPT, they find the output, sometimes to be lackluster. The responses are generic or low quality or don't provide what they need. At least that's how, they complain about that. I think this happens because AI systems like ChatGPT, while possessing vast knowledge lack the nuanced comprehension of language like humans have. We can think of it like almost like talking to an extremely intelligent alien. Now, to direct ChatGPT or other models like that effectively, we need to be very precise in specifying what we want. And this is where prompt engineering comes in, the art of crafting prompts that elicit the desired response. And there are principles that we follow to communicate better with these AI models. So after many trials and errors, I developed a framework called CLEAR. So it provides 5 core strategies to optimize interactions with large language models like ChatGPT through thoughtful prompt design. So the CLEAR framework emphasizes being concise, logical, explicit, adaptive, and reflective while prompting AI. And I'll go over each one in a minute. I believe this framework is a useful introduction to prompt engineering, especially for people who are new to LLMs, large language models, or for those who have felt frustrated or disappointed with the results they have gotten so far. So, concise. By the way, all the images in this slideshow were created by Midjourney, and I asked it to create an image for concise in an abstract form. That's what it came up with, by the way. So anyway, concise is to use clear and simple language. So generative AI models like ChatGPT are trained on large amounts of text data, learning patterns and structures common in the training material. So using clear and simple language helps in aligning your prompts with these learned patterns, potentially improving the accuracy and relevance of the generated response. Is crucial because it helps avoid potential misunderstandings and misinterpretations, which are common when the language is complex or ambiguous. We want to prioritize critical information. When we speak about foregrounding critical information, we're essentially talking about steering the AI's focus towards the core of the inquiry. AI models are designed to recognize and prioritize information based on the initial set of instructions provided in the prompt. So by presenting the most important information first, we can guide the AI to center its processing power on generating a response that aligns closely with the main objective, preventing it from veering off into unrelated tangents. We want to be succinct. Generative AI operates within the token limit, which is a limitation on the number of words or characters it can process in a single prompt. So being succinct ensures that the AI has sufficient tokens left to generate a detailed and insightful response rather than exhausting its token limit on processing a lengthy prompt. Although this kind of, we're seeing other models really upping the token limit, but at the same time, tokens cost money, so it's costing more for them to do it. So this approach also prevents the dilution of focus, facilitating a concise, straight to the point response that caters to your need. Also, we want to remove irrelevant details. So including irrelevant details can sometimes mislead the AI into generating off-topic responses. And given that these models assign a level of importance to every piece of information within the prompt, and by eliminating unnecessary details, we're optimizing the AI's ability to focus on the core query, thereby enhancing the quality of relevance. And I want to stress that being concise doesn't mean just making sure it's short. It's just that eliminating unnecessary information. You can have a really long prompt, but you don't want to have unnecessary words in there, or in other words, you don't want to have a lot of noise in your prompt. So we can look at 2 examples. One of them is, can you talk about renewable energy and how can it be beneficial in various aspects, like in terms of the environment, economy, and so on, and provide a detailed discourse on this. Another one is just say, list the benefits of renewable energy. I don't know if you can see it. So the first prompt is not really concise. There are some filler phrases, but if that's what you want, that's fine too. I mean, if that's you have to know what you're asking for. So the response is, it's extensive and provides a deep dive into the benefits, of renewable energy and all that. But you don't see it here at the end. It kind of veer up at the end to my role as the Dean of Library, because I have it in my profile. So it's not really just answering the question, it brings in other information as well. So the second one is very simple, list the benefits of renewable energy. So there's no noise, basically. And the response gives you exactly that, a straightforward list of renewable energy benefits. Each point is clear, prioritizing critical information about renewable energy benefits. So it depends on what you want. So you know that if you want to get a focused response, being concise helps. The second principle is logical. You want to structure information in order. A structured and ordered approach to convey information is like building a house brick by brick. Each piece has its place and purpose. Similarly, when crafting prompts, we should arrange a questions or statements in a manner that builds upon itself, creating kind of a logical progression of ideas. So this helps in creating a narrative that the AI can follow easily, reducing the chances of receiving jumbled or incoherent responses. You can, let's say, a prompt example is start by describing the history of renewable energy. Following that, explain the current trends in renewable energy production, and finally forecast the potential development in the next decade. So here, the prompt guides the AI through the structured chronological exploration of the topic. We also want to establish context and relationship. We want to set the stage right. Establishing context helps in grounding the conversation, providing a clear backdrop that guides the AI's responses. So it's about setting, the nodes and connections in the network that leads up to a fruitful and enriching dialogue. So here's an example. Given the surge in electric vehicle usage, explore how this trend relates to the increased demand for renewable energy sources, particularly focusing on the interconnected dynamics of these two phenomena. So this prompt defines the context, the surge in electric vehicle usage, and asks the AI to analyze the relationship between this trend and the demand for renewable energy. So, and it helps with a more nuanced response. And then also, we want to ensure a kind of logical flow. It's about threading individual, parts of information into a through line, basically. And each segment of piece of information should, lead to the next, creating kind of a natural progression. If you look at the example, discuss the benefits of renewable energy in a structured manner, beginning with environmental benefits, then moving on to economic advantages, followed by analysis of technological advances, concluding with its global implications. So the response will come out in a way that you specify. It directs the AI to build a logically flowing narrative. And the third principle is explicit. You want to define instructions and format. To receive highly targeted and useful responses, defining the instructions and formats is really important. And by clearly stating that we want, in a structure, what we want in a structured format, we can guide the response to think and formulate answers in a certain way. So for instance, in the first example, give me some ideas to market my library services. So the request is broad, but we can make it more explicit. The second example details not only the type of ideas are needed, promotional ideas, and also specify the target audience and new students, and the features of the library that should be highlighted in the constraints, minimizing costs and time. So and also, like I said earlier, we want to specify the format, like length, sources, terminology. We want to further refine our request. We want to specify the length of the response, the kind of resources to be consulted, and the terminology to be used can be helpful as well. So this eliminates vagueness and allows for a more focused response. In the second example below, specifying 20 promotion ideas gives a clear indication of the desired length of the response, and also indirectly instructs to come up with a diverse set of ideas, hinting at, consulting various sources or considering multiple angles. We also want to set the tone and kind of the reading level restrictions. The tone and reading level of the request can influence the nature of the response. So setting a professional tone and an appropriate reading level ensures that a response will match the intended audience's expectations and comprehensions levels. I have used it many times when I read something that is quite difficult. Just explain it to me like I'm like a teenager or a high school student. So the second example maintains a professional tone, right, which would elicit a similarly professional and formal response. Furthermore, it contains terms like interlibrary loan, research consultations, which indicates, I would say, a higher reading level, catering to an academic audience. Also, you want to sometimes provide examples for the AI. You can act as a benchmark for the kind of responses expected, guiding the AI to structure the response in a similar vein. So in a second example, we list specific services like Ask a Librarian, chat services, and study spaces. So the AI kind of knows what it needs to think about or promote. So you can look at the responses we got for our example. So the response to the first one, which just helped me, market my library services, the response is quite generic. They're fine, but they are generic. But for the second prompt, where we really specify being explicit about what we want, the output was much more focused and specific to what we asked for. So that's one way to kind of get the LLM to give you what you want. So the first three principles were more about structuring the prompt, and I would say the final two principles are more about a mindset of strategy. So being adaptive foster an approach that is receptive to changes and ready to modify strategies as per the responses from the language models, and enhancing overall efficiency and effectiveness. So we want to be flexible. So being adaptive means being flexible in our strategies. This is essential in prompt engineering because it doesn't matter how good your prompt is, they don't always give you what you want. So you may want to take a look at the response, and then you think about rephrasing, restructuring the prompt. And that can really help, impact the quality of the responses generated by AI. You want to sometimes you want to look at the response and then adjust settings and parameters. There are actually several settings in these AI models where you can kind of tweak to kind of ask it to, or kind of make it give you kind of different outputs even with the same prompt. For example, one is called temperature. It's really just making it think more creatively, because you're changing the probability of the next word. And what these ChatGPT and LM models are, they're predictive models, so they predict what the next word is going to be based on probability. So if you change the probability, they would come up with slightly different words, and and then a different word, and then a different word. So you are getting a slightly different response based on these parameters. So you may want to play with that, and that's being adaptive, right? Another kind of adaptive mindset is to try different approaches. Try not to confine yourself to a single approach. That means the willingness to experiment with different strategies and uncover the most effective ways to interact with these language models. So that means really trying to be more creative in your prompts. And with ChatGPT and a lot of these models, they are basically free to use. So you have a lot of flexibility at this point to try different ways. So you may not be able to see this kind of, clearly. I basically lay out kind of a model of what being adaptive prompting is like. For example, in prompt 1, it's a very generic, tell me about sustainability practices in urban development. So it gives you a, generic one. So based on that, you can kind of, go a little bit deeper and say, can you provide a diverse set of examples of these practices? And now that you see these examples, you can go ahead, dig even deeper and ask it to elaborate, each of these or some of these, and then based on that. So it's more like it's not just one single prompt, and it's a lot of the times it takes a series of prompts and almost like an exploration kind of a process for you to get what you want, and sometimes even things that you didn't know you wanted. So this is quite interesting, and this is the part that I kind of enjoy very, very much. And lastly, reflective. While the adaptive principle kind of empowers us to be quick and flexible in our strategies, the reflective principle represents a more extended and insightful mindset, allowing us to learn from our interactions with AI. So we want to carefully evaluate AI's responses. Here, we are not only focusing on assessing the quality of the immediate responses, but we try to unravel the underlying mechanism of these LLMs. And by being reflective, we can, maybe gain a deeper understanding on how these models generate responses. So allowing for a more informed approach for improving strategies and prompting. And also identify areas for improvement, looking at our way of, prompting, and learn from, like I said, I had many trials and errors, and I think at this point I'm quite, well-versed in prompt engineering, but that takes time and kind of really looking back and see, what prompts generates what kind of response, and use these insights to further refine strategies. We want to learn continuously, and also because of these models are developing, evolving very quickly as well. So, and the only way to keep learning is keep using it and keep reflecting on our strategies. So what are the implications for the future of learning and education? So as I think more about generative AI, there is a possibility that prompt engineering could become the new form of, quote unquote, writing. By focus on prompt engineering, students, learners are encouraged to refine their inquiries, go deeper into topics, analyze the responses critically. So this not only fosters analytical thinking, but enhances their ability to communicate effectively, delineating clear, concise, and comprehensive instruction queries. So this kind of iterative process of refining prompts based on AI responses also encourages adaptive learning strategies, fostering a dynamic, interactive, and responsive learning environment. So if you think about analytical thinking, learning how to formulate a problem statement, being able to know what to ask the AI to help you solve is a way of analytical thinking. And we need communication skills. I mean, prompt engineering is about translating your thoughts into words, into your natural language, in a very precise way to ask the AI, to let the AI know what exactly you want. We have these adaptive reflective principles to critically evaluate the responses to see what's missing, what's needed, what's biased, what's not right, and also being reflective on learning continuously. I talk about prompting as kind of a exploration, because based on the responses, you can go into very different directions. So that enhances creative thinking as well, or finding different ways to ask the AI to give you what you want. Finally, I think it's an interesting thing that we are looking at. I mean, we're working with the AI. It's almost like our assistant or our partner in some ways. So I think we can harness the potential to augment the capabilities and utilizing the AI's computing power to gain deeper insights and work with the AI. I think Microsoft is calling as tools co-pilots. So we are, AI is not replacing us; it's helping us, and we can have use this process to have a collaborative mindset with AI. So in conclusion, I think prompt engineering stands as a powerful tool in helping perhaps the next generation to equip with the critical skills necessary to navigate and thrive in this evolving world. So thank you. Thank you for listening. And let me put to my next slide where you can see my contact information. And there are a couple of papers I wrote on prompt engineering and a clear framework. So now I would love to hear your thoughts, ideas, and questions. I see a lot of things going on in the Q&A, but they're going too fast for me to read them. So Daniel, maybe you can help with that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation, and I think I speak for a lot of people that, there's going to be a rush of people dusting off their resumes to, apply for some prompt engineering librarian jobs. But all right, to get started with the Q&A, friendly reminder to everyone that you can upvote questions that you would like to see answered. We won't be able to get to all of them, but we will try to do as many as we can. And so the first one, would it be helpful for librarians to think of prompt engineering in a similar way to which we view building searches on databases?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that it's a similar way, but not exactly the same, because it's for databases. We are helping us to find information from very specific source, right? But prompt engineering or generative AI in general, in a way, they do have those, contents in their training data, probably. But right now, it's almost like a black box. We don't know where people get those information from. So I think with policies or regulations, that will become more transparent, and that's good. But at the same time, when we type in something, a prompt, we're not just looking for information, we're almost generating new information. So what does that mean? I think that's a big question for a lot of us information professionals to really think about. How do we even curate any of that? Or what does so it's too big at this point. I'm not quite sure. But in a way, it's similar in that we need to be able to create precise prompts, or in the past, search keywords to get the information we want. But the getting part is the part I feel like is slightly different now, and I'm not quite sure what to make of it at this point. I need more smart people to come up with what we need to do with that. But I can see that happening, is that there will be so much information generated from this, and then what are we going to do with those newly generated information, and what's the role of the librarians? I'm not quite sure.
All right. So these are two questions that are kind of similar, so I will just present them together. This one is from Timothy. Wouldn't you say there's also a flaw in how prompts can be engineered to confirm the biases of the person writing it? And then the second one is from Amy. Clear and concise might depend on professional, cultural, linguistic, economic, and social backgrounds. How do we make this technology inclusive and beneficial for everyone?
So let me try to understand the questions first. Let me go back to the first one. There's a flaw in how prompts can be engineered to confirm the bias intricacies of the person writing it.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's, if I understand it correctly, is perhaps similar to when you search for things on the internet, whatever you search, in a way that is kind of, you get the information you kind of bias towards. If that's the case, then yeah, then the person writing it can have biases in the prompt to get that kind of information. I'm not quite sure how to solve this. Although there are a lot of policies and regulations that talked about, at least brings up the issues that the training data in these models are often biased and may not even be accurate. So perhaps with these regulations coming into play, and these companies and tech companies that need to really think about what kind of training data they use and be transparent about what training data they have actually used, so that people will know, if I put in let's say a neutral prompt, it will give me a neutral response versus a biased, response. At this point, I'm not quite sure. And to be honest, I don't think anybody is quite sure of how that will work out, because if we look at the internet, it's not a nice place either. There's plenty of things out there that are very biased and inaccurate. So that, I think that would take some doing to correct that. However, perhaps we can play a part in this, as in learning how to prompt in a way that would be less, to get the information that would be more objective and minimize that biases in that. So right now I'm actually looking in what I call user customized parameters. For example, I'm trying out different ways to, not from the front end, not the back end. From the front end, say, put in a prompt and say, only look for information from these sources, or only use information that has been validated by whatever. So not quite sure how that will work. I think there's some people trying that out on, using your own customized parameters in prompting, but that will, let's wait to see that and see whether that will develop into something, whether the users can have more control in getting what kind of data from the training data. And the second question is basically asked, I don't remember, to be more inclusive in using prompt, I believe.
Yeah, that the ideas of clear and concise might depend on professional cultural linguistics and other backgrounds. How do we make this technology inclusive and beneficial for everyone?
In a way, it is. So forget about clear and concise at this point, but if you look at these large language models, I think it's actually it's a great way to be more inclusive. Forget about the digital divide at this point. People have access to it, or people are able to pay for it. But generative AI, for example, I can see that being useful for accessibility purposes. I can see it being very inclusive for people who don't speak, let's say, English. They can use this they can use their own language in it. I've tried it with Chinese. I've tried it with different languages with just ChatGPT. It's not even, other ones specifically designed for certain language. So that makes it, very, accessible to many, many people. The clear and concise, I'm not quite sure, maybe. I think that a lot of these large language models are still evolving in a way that will kind of understand the human language a little bit more than right now. And I think, and I'm all for it. But until then, I think there are some principles that we can use to get the kind of information that we want. But eventually, I think it will become so good that maybe prompt engineering, it would not even be a thing. There are actually some people saying that maybe, in the future, it will just understand, what we talk about, even directly to your thoughts. You don't even need to articulate it. But before then, I think there are certain principles that will make it, a little bit more effective. Not quite sure how to answer the cultural, linguistic, economic, social background. Yeah, maybe you can elaborate it a little bit.
Okay. In the meantime,
Yeah.
we'll take up another question. This one has received a lot of attention. How do you think we could plan information literacy classes using AI or ChatGPT?
I think there are certain things. One is, first of all, letting people know that the information there is not always accurate. So that means the students will need to be information literate to be able to verify that. And also, I mentioned in the last slide in that there are certain skill set that's required to create effective prompts. You need to be able to formulate a central question or problem statement. It's like teaching students how to, what are they trying to look for in, let's say, for information to begin with. And also being able to articulate it even more than just putting in keywords or search queries. So that's something I think we can incorporate into these information literacy classes. In fact, I would encourage you to try it and say, test it out and ask students to craft these prompts and see what kind of information they get, and then try to verify it. Because as great as GPT and other large language models are right now, they are getting accurate information is not their strength. They're very good at generating ideas, and now want to use that to their strength. For example, you may not want to use ChatGPT to actually look up information, but you can ask it and say, I have this problem. I need to search library databases. What are some of the keywords that you would suggest? And then ask them to try it out and see, how you can play it to its strength and not its weaknesses. My library, and I think similarly at other academic libraries, that a lot of students coming in with fake citations that they got from ChatGPT, and when people try to find out how to, try to find those sources for them, but couldn't because they're made up. I think that's a really good opportunity for library workers to use to teach their students that, ChatGPT is great in some ways, but not necessarily great in this way. And that means that librarians or library workers will need to have some knowledge of these AI tools to be able to show them, to say, hey, use it, but use it intelligently and not, don't use it in a way that they're not supposed to be used at this point. Yeah.
All right. That touched on a couple other questions that were asked about verifying information or fake citations. So I'm going to gloss over those so we can get to some other stuff or some other topics. This one comes from Carrie. She says, I can see how your clear framework and prompt engineering can foster better critical thinking in students, which could lead to a marked improvement in the quality of student work, projects, presentations, and written papers. What do you hope to explore further with these concepts? What does a clear framework end up leading us toward?
I would love, it is a new framework. It's not been tested, to be honest. It's something that, I tried. I think it would be great if any of you would be interested in trying it out in both instruction, reference, or in any way in your work. Definitely let me know, and we can kind of, work together. I know before this webinar, somebody from University of Calgary and also Harvard Innovation Lab contacted me in trying to use this for different purposes. And, I created a checklist for them to use it. So if any of you is interested, contact me. My email is right there. And we can kind of, collaborate and see how we can kind of use this to teach students and some of those skill sets.
Cool. Since you had mentioned that you had used ChatGPT in English as well as Chinese, I thought that maybe you'd be interested in tackling this question about using ChatGPT in a non-Western language. Adrian writes that it gave me a very general result. Never mind, it just, give me 1 second, Adrian, we have. Okay. It gave me a very general result as can be expected. However, I noticed this style is written in a very English language style in the ways that it structures its paragraphs, presents informations, and use of its technology. Where is AI with regards to gathering data in languages other than English?
Yeah, so this is more technical than I can probably answer at this point. And I have it's interesting. I find it I agree with you that it is kind of in the English kind of way when it kind of generates its responses. But at the same time, I think there are other, language models in different countries that are coming up with their own. I know there's the Chinese one in China for sure. I'm not quite sure how it actually uses or gathering data in non-English language for, let's say, the ChatGPT language model. I would have to ask a computer scientist to answer that. Sorry.
No, that's good. All right. So Heather reports that during this session she received an email from a student asking for citations, which she is sure are AI hallucinations. So kind of going back to a previous topic, beyond just making students aware that this is an issue, do you have any suggestions for training them to recognize when AI lies?
So that's it's really difficult unless you have that domain language. I mean, domains knowledge of knowing that when something doesn't seem right. So I think it's hard to know when or where it is lying or when it's lying. I don't have a good answer for that. However, it's to have that mindset of being skeptical and and try to verify its output if you're not familiar with that that topic. Even when I use it, sometimes I'm like, this doesn't really seem right, even though it sounds so right. So I feel like at this point it's really just having that mindset and say, look, if you're going to use it, you have to understand its limitations. And whatever you can use it, and then even if you do write papers or assignments or whatever you hand in, that's you're responsible for that. I think that's the mindset that's it's quite important at this point, that they're responsible for whatever they hand in. So even you using AI to help them in whatever way is fine to me. But they really need to keep that in mind to learn how to verify the responses. I think it will get better, but at the same time, some people are saying this hallucination thing is very fundamental to the way it works because of the probability. It would just generate. If it's a generative AI, it would generate even if it doesn't know the answer. So let's see what kind of guardrails these tech companies put in there. So, but in order for us to learn that, we need to keep using these things and keep testing and keep kind of monitoring. So sorry, I don't have a really great answer for this question, which I think everybody's still trying to figure it out.
Okay, here's for a final question, since it is almost 3 o'clock. You had mentioned that you were doing some more like committee work or structural work at your institution. So I thought this was a good one. Can you talk about how your library addresses AI as research tool in general to faculty and other disciplines that aren't excited about it? This person says that at their community college, faculty are still pretty panicked about this stuff.
Yeah, our faculty are pretty they are in panic mode as well. We think so. Right now, we're just starting. We haven't, done much, but we are getting together groups of people, faculty, students, and staff, and administrators, to kind of come up with not necessarily policies, but guidance and support for faculty and everyone to learn about AI. And I think that we're putting this, even when faculty are panicking, we are actually putting students in a very tough positions because they don't know whether they can use it, or how to use it, or when they can use it. Because faculty, some of them are, they're in panic mode. They don't want, students to use it because they can use it to do all the assignments. But I think faculty need to learn more about it so that they can make their informed decisions on whether or how to use these things. It's changing everything. I mean, I talk about prompt engineering as the new form of writing. Do we even need to learn how to write anymore? I mean, that's a big question moving forward. And faculty, they need to learn more, experiment with it, how to use it for certain things, maybe not, change their teaching overnight completely, but slowly they need to introduce this into their teaching and learning and assignments, because students can use it. And if they can use it to do everything, then, what are they learning? So I think there will be a period of pain when it's transitional, and we need to kind of accept that in a way. But we need to, so that's my committee, and the initiative is really about supporting faculty to learn more about AI so they can start addressing it and using it in some ways.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lowe, for taking your time to speak to us today. And thank you, too, for all of our attendees. You asked a lot of great questions, and I know I could have sat here for much longer listening to the responses. I would like to remind everyone that we did record today's program, so be on the lookout for a follow-up email from Choice and LTI with the link to the recording as well as the slides. There's a lot to study there, so I think that there's still a lot that we can learn from Dr. Lowe. Also, if you do have a few minutes after the presentation to fill out a brief survey, we would really appreciate it. And thanks again, all of you, for joining us today. We hope you found our session informative and engaging, and we also hope to see you again in the future for another webinar. All right, have a great afternoon, everyone.